hope you're all doing well. Sorry, it's been a hot minute since I've done this stuff. Also, I'm apologizing for the crappy camera I have with my laptop. It's just the way it is. My laptop is a dinosaur. It's super old, and I just haven't prioritized getting a new laptop at the moment. Just life is expensive. So yeah, at some point it will be on the list. I hope in some point soon, or I'll figure out a way to get a better camera. If anyone has any ideas how I can make my camera a bit better, let me know. That'd be amazing. But yeah, anyways, yeah, I hope you've all been well. Sorry, my brain is super scattered. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. It's just been a really crazy, crazy little bit. But I thought it'd be fun to catch up, see where everyone's at, and then just kind of go over how this past quarter has gone and plans for the next quarter for Q4. I do also want to just quickly mention, I've recently kind of realized there's a good chance I have ADHD, and I am pretty tired, so yeah, my brain might be a little squirrely. I'm apologizing in advance, but yeah, let's just do it. It's already gonna probably be long, so we're just gonna get right into it. We're gonna go straight on to here. So, let's see. Perfect. So, I'm pretty sure if you guys have seen my last update in June, July, somewhere in that realm of places, you would have seen some of this here. So I did kind of modify it a little bit. Also, I'm apologizing if you're looking at my screen, actually. Back up here for a second. Originally, the plan was that we would have Portuguese or Brazilian Portuguese. We'd be learning for the full year. This is the beginning of the year plans. And then for each quarter, we were going to do, in second quarter, we were going to do French, third quarter German, fourth quarter Russian, or possibly something else. And then all the little flags that are on the right hand, the ones that I was going to do for 2 months at a time. So Norwegian for January, February, Croatian for March and April, and so on and so forth. I was originally going to do Afrikaans, and the order was a little bit different. There was a couple languages I was in and out of. Anyways, all this has changed, of course, because it's me, and I always change my mind. That's just, it's the way it goes. I always change my mind. Yeah. So anyways, originally this was supposed to be for a whole year. And then life happened. And for the first, pretty much from like January to March, so the whole first quarter, I basically just studied Portuguese. I was studying Portuguese like so much. I think I had like, at the end of the day, first quarter, sorry, the first quarter, I had like 67 hours of Portuguese in, which is pretty crazy considering that that's the most hours I've had in a quarter in quite a while. I was basically taking lessons like 3 to 4 times a week for an hour, and I was just doing so much practice. And then the end of March into the beginning of April, I went to visit my friend in Brazil. Him and his family, I stayed with them for 2 weeks, and it was amazing. And it was so crazy to see how much Portuguese I was able to understand by the end of the trip. It was insane. I was so happy. And I'm pretty sure I talked about this during the last video. So anyways, all that to say, second quarter came in and I was basically just burnt out. I've been really tired and just having a hard time. Just different things in my life. I was just burnt out from work honestly. I was working quite a bit beforehand, and it had just been a couple years of just nonstop work. For reference, I work, well, at this point, I was working like 3 to 4 jobs. And I mean, I still am working 3 to 4 jobs. I don't know why I said that, but yeah, I work a lot. It's just kind of the way it is. And I work in the service industry. I waitress at 2 different restaurants, and then I teach ESL on the side. And especially with waitressing, it's a lot of late nights. There's a lot of like being on your feet, and your brain just kind of all over the place all the time. So not only is it like kind of physical exhaustion from constantly, I mean, every time I like check my step counter, I get 10,000 steps without trying, just walking to work, walking around all day from work, and walking back. Um, it's just one of those jobs. You're on your feet all day, and because you're waitressing, you're not just kind of standing still at a checkout order. You're constantly going back and forth. Anyways, I digress. It was just a lot. I was just kind of mentally going through some stuff, and I kind of took the second quarter to really just try to take care of my mental health a little bit better, just prioritize resting and starting to exercise a little bit more and just taking better care of myself in general. That was really great. And then we had third quarter, and I said, you know what? All these languages up like this way, I was gonna do, and I was like halfway through the year. I'm like, I'm a crazy person. I want to like dabble in like I want to touch 10, 11 languages. Like it's too late now. Like I've basically only studied Portuguese and a little tiny bit of Norwegian. Too late now. And I said, no, competitive Mandy is not impressed with this. And I can do better. I know I can do something. So I decided, all right, we're going to try this again starting in July. So now what basically happened is these up and down ones over here. I decided instead of taking 2 months for each, I was just going to take 1 month. And every month I was going to dabble in a different language and basically just kind of get a feel for the language. They're all languages I've been wanting to learn more about or been wanting to learn, and I've just never actually done it. I've never really spent much time in it, or I've spent like a couple of hours, a couple of days, whatever the heck kind of thing. So I decided this is my time to try it. So ends up being that now, because everything is halved, I get a month for each of those languages. And then Portuguese is still my main number one language I'm focusing on. So that was still kind of the one that I had to have the main focus for this year. And then the French, the German, and the Russian, which are on the bottom half here beside Brazilian flag. Those, instead of doing it for every quarter, it's going to be every 2 months. So it's been a little crazy. I'm very happy to say I have actually maybe not always studied tons. I can tell you Croatian right now, I studied for like 2 hours. So not so much, like basically 2.5, 3 hours for the whole month of August. So not a lot. But hey, I actually touched Croatian for a little bit. And that's where I'm like, you know what? Take the win. Just take the win. Um, yeah, it was just one of those things. Oh man, actually Norwegian's worse. I'm just looking at this now. Yeah, Norwegian I spent like an hour. Okay, I'm digressing, okay? Like I said, I didn't quite I did spend time at least in every language. I might not have spent much. It has been really crazy this summer. August and September are very, very busy times at the restaurant, or July, August, like the whole summer. It's a very touristy season. It's just been a lot. I've just been really tired, and I've been trying to get back into things. So I've been studying a lot. I'm not gonna come around and be like, oh yeah, I can have conversations in Norwegian and Croatian, because frankly, I can't. I can barely remember how to say stuff. But the point of this was really to just enjoy the language, to kind of see, is this something I'm interested in? Is this something I'd like to study more and whatnot, kind of thing. So this is like these dabble languages. It was just a way for me to explore it without stress, without saying I'm committing to it. and without putting that pressure and just being like, if we study it, we study it. If I don't feel like studying it, then obviously it just seems to be a language that I'm not really bothered to be doing with right now. And if you guys follow me on Twitter, depending where you're getting this from, I do tend to post a little bit. So like I've been trying to post monthly summaries. My posting is horrible. Again, scatterbrain, ADHD me, that kind of jumps into something and then doesn't touch it for a million years. But I am trying to get better at that, more consistent. Or if I like see it again after a while, then I just try to go back and fill in the information. So at least if I look back, whenever I scroll through, I can see all the information and I'm not, even if it's like 2 months later or whatever. Anyways, again, I digress. It's again 1:00 in the morning. Sorry. But yeah, so anyways, all this to say, these are the languages I was working with. Let's go on. Okay, so this is what I did this quarter. Total hours spent was almost 47 hours. Honestly, I'm pretty happy with that. My first quarter I had 70, almost 74 hours. And again, like most of the hours were Portuguese. And then quarter two, I did 33 hours. And again, most of it was Portuguese. But this time I actually have a little bit more. I have 55% was Portuguese. And then I did some other ones. I spent 6-ish hours in Icelandic, 4 hours in German, almost 4 hours in Italian, 3.5 hours in French, 2.5 hours in Croatian, about an hour in Norwegian, Norsk. And then this is kind of a cheat, but it's because of the way I do the quarter. This is like October from October 1st. But Indonesian. So about 40 minutes in Indonesian. So as you can see, there's a little bit of stuff going on here. I'm very happy. I wish I had done more Norwegian and Croatian, but I didn't. That's just the way it is. It's how life works. But yeah, and as you can see, what I'm really happy about is the graph on like the far, like where you're seeing me in this bottom right hand quarter. On the bottom left hand quarter, there's like the pink. Sorry, I hit my phone bone. There's the pink bar graph, and it shows each bar is the week, so it kind of shows you roughly how much I did each week. I'm just happy to say I've studied at least a little bit, even if it was next to nothing, every week. As you can see, there's like 2 or 3 weeks where it was almost nothing really that I studied, not much time, but I still every week made a little bit of time to study, and that makes me really happy. Consistency has always been the worst thing. Everything that I do, I really struggle with consistency. So this is like a huge win for me, honestly. All right, so let's get to the different languages. First off, let's review. We have Portuguese. Originally, for Portuguese, I was wanting to... come on. Okay. My main goal was to kind of reach a late A2, early B1 level. I would say I'm like... I feel like I'm mid A2. I feel like I can have some basic conversations. I haven't studied tons lately. I have studied some, but it's also 1:00 in the morning. I'm not gonna try to speak. I'm gonna mess up. I'm also like not used to speaking in front of camera. I haven't done videos like this very much, so I'm already nervous enough speaking in English, trying to do this. We're gonna let myself build the getting used to it before I start doing it in Portuguese. But yeah, I have a lot of knowledge. The speaking is still a little bit harder for me. Reading, I'm definitely getting a lot more comfortable. Writing is like so-so. Listening is not too bad. When I was in Brazil, I was able, and again, when I was in Brazil, it was a bit different because I was just being totally immersed all the time. But yeah, the idea was I could have basic conversations comfortably. I would say I can have basic conversations with a bit of stress. But yeah, goal was to have 10 italki lessons a month. I'm not sure if I quite got there. I definitely had italki lessons. They were a little bit more few and farther in between. Part of this was also adjusting for finances. I just didn't have as much money to spend on language lessons. So do half of the assembly in the complete Portuguese textbook. I have gotten up to, I pretty much scrapped assembly. As much as I like it, it was just wanted to focus on one textbook at a time. So I decided to do my Brazilian Portuguese textbook, and give me a second here. I have like a million cameras set up right now, so bear with me as I figure out what I'm doing here. And there you go. Okay, this is my complete Brazilian Portuguese textbook. I love these textbooks. I know I've definitely talked about them on Twitter and stuff like that. They're really great. I just like how you kind of have different, sorry, this is really awkward position for me to try to figure this out. There's like kind of the conversation or the topic. There's lots of like vocabulary areas, lots of conversations. There's also, when you buy the books, or even without buying the books, if you go to, what's the company called? Complete or Teach Yourself there. If you get their app, you can download all the audio files for the books, even if you haven't purchased them. And then once you buy the book, you just kind of listen to the matching files. I really like them. They have a lot of conversation areas. They do have some grammar topics, but I don't find it too crazy. They kind of do a little bit at a time. They do like different listening practice, writing practice, reading practice, like kind of get you to speak kind of thing in between. I find this is, for me, the best textbook I've used. I love their textbooks. Do I feel like I got everything out of it the first go around? No. But I do feel like I have been slowly improving. And then some things, it's just the more it comes up, you're like, oh yeah, I do remember this now. But yeah, I really, really, really like it. They do have, your typical like glossary. They have a spot of a bunch of different verbs, like present, indicative, present subjunctive, preterite, imperfect, indicative, imperfect, subjunctive, conditional, future indicative, future subjunctive, imperative, past participle, gerund. Like they have all these kind of different parts of the verbs listed out, as well as just like kind of like irregular endings for each of the different sections. And then of course your answer keys, all that stuff. But honestly, if you're looking for a textbook, I would definitely recommend it. I have used it now for Brazilian Portuguese. I didn't use it for French, but I've been using it for German. I used it for Norwegian, Croatian, and Icelandic. I did use it for Italian, which we're going to get to. I forgot to mention this. That was my challenge language because I'm a crazy person. But yeah, I pretty much have bought this textbook for every language I've studied this year, except for Indonesian, which I'm currently studying, and for French. French because I wanted to focus mostly on verbs, which I'll get to. And I just decided not to really bother with that right now. I'm also at like an intermediate, somewhere in the intermediate level range. So I found I was fine. Although in the future, I think I might get it and kind of go through and just work through it a little bit. But yeah, and then Indonesian, I think it was going to be like most of the complete series books, they're closer to like 30 to 30, anywhere from like 30 to $50 Canadian. I think like the German was 35 Canadian. Yeah, most of them are around the $35-ish mark. Depending on the language, some are a little bit more expensive than others. Most of them, though, generally tend to be around $35 to $45 Canadian, which I find is pretty decent, reasonable. And again, I really like the textbooks. I find they're really great. My goal, once I finish this, which I'm actually getting pretty far, I'm currently at unit 14, and there's 18 units, I believe. So I'm actually got more than halfway done, which I'm really excited about. That's what I was actually trying to say. That's all I really had to say. I'm sorry. I'm going to hide this for a second here. Perfect. So yeah, I got through a bunch of that. I'm really happy. I was also wanted to work through reading short stories in Brazilian Portuguese. I don't know why I turned off this camera. Let's go back here, which is this one. It's technically also by the teacher herself. This is Ollie Richards' short story series. I do like them. I have recently, though, decided I'm going to switch the book that I'm doing. I have been listening to this some. I got the book on Audible as well, so I can read and listen to it. I am finding, though, that just because I have this book in so many different languages, again, Portuguese, French, German, Russian, Spanish, Korean, Norwegian, Swedish, Icelandic. Yeah, those ones. Sorry, my bookshelf is like, I would show you, but my room is a mess. Some other time I will show you my bookshelf when my room doesn't look like the end of the world just went off. It's been a little busy. I've been tired. I'm sorry. My brain had half a mind to clean up my room before I took this video, and then I realized if I did that, my ADHD would take over and I'd start cleaning the entire house, and then this video would just not get made. So this is what you got. I'm sorry. But yes, anyways, wow, my brain. I don't remember what I was going to say. Oh yeah, I have this in so many. I wanted to get different ones, so I did kind of in the end start switching towards a different book, but we'll talk about that later. Oops, that is not what I wanted to do. There you go. Yeah, and then the last thing was to just kind of work on some apps, lingo legends, and drops. I did a little bit, but not tons though. But yeah, so I was like, okay. My French goals, basically scratch more or less all of this. I did start reviewing some basic verb tenses, some of the regulars. I did do a couple exercises. I really didn't do much though. I really didn't do much. I did listen to some Duolingo podcasts though, but I didn't read any articles in French. I didn't watch news documentaries in French. I did do a little bit of watching some English series with French subtitles. I think I was watching Young Sheldon. Yeah, I was watching Young Sheldon with French subtitles just to kind of get used to things a little bit more. But yeah, I didn't really get much done there. And then we started German. German was for September and October, so I'm still currently doing it. German, let's see, what do we start doing? I did start reviewing some previous material, some of my notes I'd taken from before. I do still want to kind of go through all of my old Lingoda notes from when I did the Lingoda sprint, as well as some italki notes from my italki teacher. There's so much stuff, but yeah. Excuse me. I need water. Hydrate, y'all, like I never do. So good. Okay. Read short stories in German. I don't actually know if I've done this yet. I did a little bit, but not enough. I did listen to the Coffee Break German podcast some and work through Duolingo or drops. I didn't really do that. Again, I went back to once again my complete, as you can tell, the little bit that you can see right here, that's how much of a mess my room is right now. So yeah, I'm sorry. But yeah, I started working through Complete German textbook. Again, really liking it. I've been finding this has been reviewing a lot of the things I've already learned, which has been good. It has been a good review in that sense. Um, the same exact idea as the other one, just a nice smaller condensed version. Oh yeah, and for the French stuff, I forgot to go through, but the French short stories, I don't think I actually really touched this at all. Yeah, I had started doing a bunch of it before, but I don't think I started really used it much. And then this is the French verb textbook I was going through. I just had it from buying it. I did a couple of like, oh, sorry. You can't really read anything. Couple little exercises about like just some basic verb conjugations, which they don't feel as hard as what I remember, probably because again, it was mostly regular verbs, not the millions of things and not the millions of tenses. But like, I don't know, after studying some of the other languages I've been studying, I'm like, oh, this isn't super hard. And I kind of remember doing the whole like, je parlais, tu parlais, il, elle, on parlait, nous parlons, vous parlez, ils parlent, ils parlent. Like the on, is, however you want to do that. I was like, oh, this doesn't feel as bad as I remember. But like the list of all the common verbs, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just not gonna remember all that, but that's fine. But yeah, so yeah, that was the French, and then yeah, for German, pretty much just this one here. I do again have my short stories in German. I don't think I really do. I didn't really listen so much this past semester, which is I watched a lot of movies with like subtitles in the language because I was watching a lot of English films and I hate watching dubbed. I cannot for the life of me stand watching anything dubbed. Seeing someone's mouth move in a way that's not in like agreeing with what's being said, like just like they're saying one thing but their mouths moving differently, that drives the crap out of me. If it's like comic or whatever, it doesn't bother me obviously, but like yeah, any of the series I'm watching, no, I can do it. So I've been watching in English, or if it's a movie in French, then I'll watch, or German, I'd watch it in the original language. And that's generally always how I watch my movies. Um, Even if it's a language I'm not currently learning, I just prefer to listen to it in the original language that's been made, actually hear the actors and actresses' real voices and whatnot. So, and then I'll just, yeah, if it's in English, I'll put the subtitles in whatever language I want to focus on. And then if it's in a different language, then I'll put the subtitles in English generally. But yeah, that's where we're at. So yeah, not tons. And then we have our dabble languages. Norwegian, good old Norwegian. What did I do? Did I learn how to introduce myself and ask about others, how to ask and answer typical basic conversation questions? Technically, but no. Um, can I say like a couple of random stuff? Can I say tak? Can I say now I'm blanking? Do I remember? Yeah, sure. Maybe if I give me a second to review it, say a little bit. But not really the level I wanted to. I did a little bit and I didn't really touch it enough to get anywhere with it. Yeah. If I were to go back, I would just kind of start working through stuff. Did I start the short stories in Norwegian? I did. I think I listened to maybe a chapter, but I did technically start it. And then of course working through this lovely textbook right here, my complete Norwegian. I think I got, how many chapters did I get in? Okay, so I really only got into the second chapter here. So I really didn't get very far at all, like I said. But we got a little bit. That was the main idea. That's all I really wanted. So that was good. I'm gonna move some of these books out of the way because they're like everything's a mess. It's gonna stress me out. So yeah. There you go. That's good. Did I watch a show or series in Norwegian? I was watching Ragnarok on Netflix, and I wanted to watch it during July, during that month. I don't think I really did, or maybe watched part of an episode, or I started watching the first one again. Did I end up just finishing watching the whole season 3 of Ragnarok on Netflix like last week? Yes, of course I did. Little late, but hey. I found Norwegian was quite interesting. I did enjoy it. It was good, but it wasn't my favorite language. But I had a lot of fun with it. I'm so sorry, all you guys who watch me. Afrikaans. Okay, Afrikaans was supposed to happen. Afrikaans was supposed to be my August language, and it just didn't happen. I don't think it's going to happen this year. It's been hard to find some resources, and I just have other languages I also want to learn that I have a little bit easier access to resources. So this whole list of stuff just didn't happen, and probably realistically won't happen this year. Croatian. Let's go. Again, did we learn how to introduce myself, ask about others? This one was really tricky, and honestly, no, I really didn't. Do I remember a couple of things like kaktala, like how are you? Sure. But again, not anywhere that I feel like I would be to say I really learned anything. I would say, I could probably read a few things, but yeah. Once again, here's this textbook, and I don't even think, oh yeah, I barely got into the second chapter. So yeah, really didn't get very far in it at all, which is fine. That's the way it goes. Oh, that's not the one I wanted to close. There you go. I did a little bit of drops. I didn't listen to the Let's Learn Croatian podcast as much as I wanted to. It is actually a pretty nice one. I did like it. I'd listened to it a bit last year when I started learning Croatian a little bit. But yeah, again, I didn't really, yeah. Sorry. And then we come into Icelandic, which was last month. Icelandic. Oh, okay, yes. I didn't make an actual slide for it. Icelandic. For Icelandic, what did we do in the end? I had the Icelandic short stories in Icelandic. I think I started it. I can't remember. Let's throw this here. I did go through this one. This textbook is an older version, so the inside is quite a bit different. I did finish the first 2 chapters, though. Yeah, I finished the first 2 chapters. I found even though it was an older version, and I definitely didn't feel like there was as much info in this or as well done as some of the other ones, I still found it was actually pretty decent, and I think because Icelandic does feel so much different, it definitely was nice to have it feel like it was going at a bit of a slower pace, smaller chapters, and just, I don't know, a little easier to bite off. I do feel like, though, like, I cannot just have a straightforward conversation in Icelandic off the top of my head at the moment. I do feel like reading, like, okay. Let's see here. We've got, hi. Hi. No, you are not focusing. Focus. Hi. How heitest du? Anna and Sue? Jag heter Vaughn. So basically, it's like, hi. What are you called? Like, what called you? Basically, if we're going word for word, literal translation. But like, what's your name? And then Anna and you. I am called Born. So I do find that some of these things I found this is when I spent significantly more time in Icelandic compared to my other 2 dabble languages. Icelandic I spent almost 6 hours, versus the other ones I spent like 1 to 2.5 hours. So obviously that makes a big difference. I love the sound of Icelandic. I really enjoyed it. It was also really nice because Icelandic is comes from the same background as Norwegian, but it's basically the Viking. It's like old Viking language, basically. So, basically, what the textbooks were saying, from what I've heard, Icelandic has basically not changed since the time of the Vikings, since the 1400s. The written language hasn't changed at all. So, from what I understand, Icelandic people could read Viking sagas that were written, you know, 6, 7, 800 years ago and still be able to understand it. And the spoken language has barely changed. So, and it definitely, when you think of the typical like way that the Vikings speak with the, I don't know, like the certain sounds of the language, like it definitely felt like that. So it was kind of cool. I felt like low-key like a Viking, reading stuff out loud in Icelandic. It was really cool. I enjoyed it. It definitely helped the fact that Norwegian and Icelandic come from the same thing. There are a lot of similarities. The very little bit that I did learn of both, I could definitely see some of the similarities between the two languages. And I feel like that helped me with Icelandic. When I was first little bit dabbling, I did do Norwegian. I found it hard to really kind of get into it. And I found it hard to understand it. But then kind of round 2 with Icelandic, it was a lot easier because, oh, I've already seen this. Oh, I'm remembering this. Oh, this is like this in Norwegian. So having those comparisons was really, really nice. Yeah. And Italian. Oh, dear. I've been wanting to dabble in Italian only purely because my youngest sister was wanting to learn Italian. And I was like, this is a great way for us to bond. Finally, somebody else I know in real life that is also interested in learning languages. We can do this together. We can go have little coffee dates, cafe dates, and learn languages together. And wouldn't that be a nice way to spend time with my sister? That was cool. I did a little bit of it. And then my sister got a boyfriend. So, and now school started up. So, between her dating, between her being back in school, and her doing work for some of her professors, she has no time. And at this point, I'm like, I'm just really not feeling Norwegian or Italian. I learned a bit. I'm currently learning 2 other Romance languages, and I'm just finding it, I don't know, like nothing against it. And maybe if I spent some time in Italy, I'd definitely be wanting to learn Italian. But right now, I just don't have the desire and really honestly the motivation. So I started working through the complete Italian textbook, and that's really the only thing I did. And I mean, in last quarter, so far this year, I've basically spent 4.5 to 5 hours, and I'm just not really that into it. So I think for me, what I'd rather do is just take Italian off for now, not really worry about it at this point until whenever my sister decides she really wants to get back into Italian, I will start learning Italian. But I'm really only learning at this point in my life to spend time with her. I'd rather, for the next little while, I'd rather just not have Italian and spend more time in the languages I'm dabbling to get a little bit more comfortable with it. So, all right, that was a super long, wordy review. We're going to go faster now. Can I go faster? I don't know. We're going to find out. So, Portuguese goals. I have broken my goals down differently. Before I was doing, I want to do this many lessons. I want to get this far in a textbook, or I want to whatever the heck read this book. I've just realized that doesn't work for me. So I decided I was going to enlist the help of ChatGTP to figure out a schedule for me, a better language learning way to do things. And ChatGTP actually came up with a decent suggestions. I did end up modifying it to fit what I wanted to do, I basically realized I usually have. I'm going to close this for 5 seconds here. I basically realized I generally have 3 days a week where I can have 4 hours. I could spend just 4 hours straight on learning languages. Usually Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I can make that work in some point in the morning, early afternoon. So I decided, hey, why don't I get ChatGTP to get me a schedule? And I want to do Portuguese for 2 hours in those sessions. I want to do my secondary language, so French, German, or Russian, whichever one I'm on. I want to do that for 1 hour and then have like Italian when I was doing it for a half hour, and then my dabble language for a half hour, each of those sessions. And yeah, so ChatGTP actually kind of I don't know how well you can read this. I will put these up on Twitter. If you're following me there, then you can find it there. Sorry, it's really not the best situation. Basically, the way we broke it down was, so for Portuguese, we would do 30 minutes of textbook study, followed by 15 minutes of reading, and then 15 to 30 minutes of listening, and then 15 minutes of verb tenses. And then, depending on how much I listen, spend up to 15 minutes in reviewing a certain grammar point, and then 15 minutes of writing, and then 15 minutes of review. I've used this. I've done this a couple times now. This method. This is something I just in the last couple of weeks came up with, or decided to ask ChatGPT to give me some ideas for. And I've really liked it. I found this has really incredibly helped me out. This system just so much better. Getting started with the textbook, kind of what I'm used to. That's my comfort zone in language learning, is using a textbook. I love textbooks, especially the complete or the teach yourself complete Portuguese, etc. language ones, just because they do a little bit of everything: conversation practice, speaking, listening, reading, writing, grammar, all that stuff. That's my happy spot, a little bit of everything. And then after doing that, I'm also touching a little bit of reading, writing, listening, grammar, verbs, all this kind of stuff. And I really do like that. So textbook study and then reading, listening. Yeah, so it's been really great. Spent time going through the textbook and then reading. So I decided I was going to read. Let's see if I can bring this up. There you go. The Diary of the Wimpy Kid. Okay, I have fallen in love with Diary of the Wimpy Kids since tutoring. The student I'm tutoring is 11 years old. We've been reading through Diary of the Wimpy Kid in English. I freaking love these textbooks or these stories. They are just so funny, wholesome, like this kid going through early junior high and everything that happens. I haven't seen the movie. I know there is a movie or a series or I don't know what, but the books are great. And everyone always talks about reading like Harry Potter or some series like that. And I just figured Diary of the Wimpy Kid is great. There's a lot of everyday language about going to school and like things that happen with friends and everything. And I just realized that's a great level of like vocabulary, everyday vocabulary I'm going to be using, verbs, whatnot. And it's funny. I love it. So what I've been doing, I'm going to show it for this one, and then I'm going to not be doing this for everything. Okay, so what I decided to do, which is going to be hard to read, but basically what I'm doing is I take one page each session because it's roughly about 15 minutes, and I'll write down the whole page in black in Portuguese. Then, in this case, I will take the pink. I'm going to start, I know it's really fuzzy, I'm sorry. I'm going to write down kind of what I think it's saying. Sometimes word for word or just kind of doing it. So, in this case, you can't really read it, but eu sempre achei que aí quer ser rico e famoso, mas agora me pergunto se a fama e a fortuna vale mesmo a pena. So what I kind of figured was like, okay, I came up with this. What I think is, I always know that I wanted to be rich and famous, but now I question myself if fame and fortune is a good look for me. Something of that idea. And then I just basically went after this and take Google and put the whole paragraph into Google or that whole first section in Google and see what it gives me. Google Translate. I know it's not the best, but it's also Brazilian Portuguese. It's going to be a little bit more decently accurate than if I'm doing Chinese or Mandarin or Korean or whatnot. So Google gives me, I always thought I would want to be rich and famous, but now I wonder if fame and fortune are really worth it. And then what I do is I also have the English version of this book. So then once I finish doing the whole page and I do the whole page, I do my translation, I check it on Google, and then I take the actual textbook or the actual book in English and see kind of the way that the language is formed. Because obviously sometimes there's different way that things are said, the way the language is used, that's going to come different. So it's never going to be like a perfect translation word for word or whatever the heck kind of thing. But yeah, I've been finding this has been one of the most helpful things I've started doing in the sense of reading. And again, because this is literally a page, it takes 15 minutes. So I'm just slowly going one page at a time. And I'm finding this has actually been really, really helpful for me. It's short enough that I can kind of just have a couple paragraphs, have 5-6 sentences, and it's all nothing like super crazy, super weird vocabulary. Most of it's like pretty typical. So just being able to be like, okay, like take that and give myself some time to think about what it is and then do Google Translate and then actually check the difference there and kind of see the progressiveness. I've been finding that has really been helping my understanding a lot. And just, so that's been super helpful. And then, yeah, so then we had listening. So I've been listening to this story, which I need to, it's on Spotify. It's like this podcast thingy majiggy. It is called França y el Labirinto. So my tutor was telling me about this. It's this detective. It's this story about this blind detective, and he has to figure out all these crimes. But when you're listening to it, it's very interesting because it's as if you're actually there. So there's no like, oh, and so went to do this or whatever. It's all first person, but first person in the sense of there'll be a time where you're not hearing anything except random background noise and random people talking. So it'd be like if you're there and you're in his shoes and he's blind, he can't see anything. So like you're listening to a podcast, you're also not seeing anything. But you'll hear like the rain pouring, and then you'll hear random footsteps, and then it will just stop. And then he'll go and he'll be talking to his dog or having a conversation with somebody, and then you'll like be walking by someone and you'll hear a little bit of that conversation and then drift out. It is such a cool thing, but the level of Portuguese in this is definitely not beginner friendly. So I'm not understanding most of it. I might understand 10% of it, but I think it's really cool. I just kind of want to do this and then slowly just spending 10 to 15 minutes listening to this, seeing what I do pick up, understanding I'm not going to pick most of it up, and I'm not crying about it. But yeah, no, it's been really cool. That's been fun. And then we have verb tenses. I've just been taking right now the top 10 most common verbs in Portuguese and learning just basic past, present, and future. I do have an idea of a lot of different verbs, but I'm not really good with conjugation, so I'm just trying to work on that right now. And then grammar, if there's anything in the textbook or any sort of grammar topic I feel like I need to work on, I can spend that time to do it. And then I'll write a short journal entry or just a little paragraph about different things, which I've never really been a huge fan of writing. But I find, especially that I'm spending a little bit more time with reading and actually taking time to dissect the sentence and figure out what I think, I am finding that once I then get to writing, I feel more comfortable because I've just spent the past hour and a half really practicing reading and writing and verbs and whatnot kind of thing. So that's all been helping me out quite a bit. Why is this? Okay, cool. So yeah, I've been finding that's been really great. I've really been liking that. So that's basically what this is. So be comfortable in the past, present, future tenses for the top 20 common verbs. Keep reading through Diary of the Wimpy Kid. Keep writing more short paragraphs and journal entries. And then speaking is most of the practice is gonna be through my italki classes. I'm gonna probably just be doing like one a week for right now. And then work through Franceo Labyrinto, that podcast there. And then, oops, for German, kind of the same thing. So this is generally, I'm going to be using a system like this. For my goals, it's to be working and progressing. Basically, my goal is to be working through and progressing in reading, writing, listening, speaking, grammar, and verbs in each of the languages. So I'm going to keep going through my complete German textbook, work on the top 10 common verb and past, present, future conjugations, and then reading through, for German, I am working through a different Diary of the Wimpy Kid book. It is this one, book number 14, Vol Daneben, which I literally just started today. So that's fun so far. And then, yeah, start working through that. So we're going to start doing a little bit of short journal entries, really basic intros and conversations, just because it's been a hot minute since I've really gone over the basics in German. So I need to keep practicing that. I want to review my Lingoda notes and then find either a movie or just like a very short series to practice German. I need to double check what I have. And then Russian. Russian is going to be for November and December. I'm going to get the complete Russian textbook shortly. It's $35 Canadian, so I'm going to get that. I know I've been loving all the textbooks, so why not throw this one in as well? I do also have, where are all my stuff? That was over here. Beside the short stories textbook, which I may or may not use, I'm not 100% sure about, I do also have this other textbook by Ollie Richard. Hello, you not going to show up? Oh, there you go. Which is 101 Conversations in Simple Russian. So I might try that out. I'm going to see kind of where I'm at with Russian. I know I did learn it for a little bit back in the end of 2021, and I really, really enjoyed it. I just had too many languages. I was going through 2021. Yeah, 2021 or 2022. I think it was 2021. I just had too many languages going on at that time. And my Cyrillic, I'm going to definitely need to work on a little bit more, just be more comfortable, which is one of the things I want to work on. The very bottom one there. Hello, why are you not working? But yeah. So other than that, just the typical, again, work through that textbook, work on 15 to 20 common verbs and basic conjugations. I work through, I didn't change that Diary of the Wimpy Kid. I will not be Diary of the Wimpy Kid because I couldn't find it in Russian. So that will probably be that 101 Conversations in Simple Russian or my short stories in Russian textbook. Again, do some short journal entries, basic intros or convos for writing. For review, I want to go over my old talking notes. For listening, possibly find a simple film or series, maybe some sort of a podcast. I'll have to see, and then work on the Cyrillic alphabet. Now we enter the realm of dabble languages. Indonesian. I've been enjoying it. Although I'm going to definitely have to work on what I'm doing for like grammar kind of situation here. And I have a whole other system and a half of how I'm doing this. So this is the textbook I'm loosely using. I'm kind of using this more as a reference guide than going straight through this. Sorry, I just realized I did this wrong. Okay, cool. Basically, this is where ChatGPT gave me a different idea of what to do for dabble languages. So basically, the idea is I said, hey, give me 12. I have 12 sessions in a month. I have 4 weeks roughly, 3 times each week where I'm going to spend a half hour. What should I work on? What would be the optimal way to get the basics in a language? Because, Icelandic, I was getting a little bit more in. I was starting to feel more comfortable, but like Norwegian and Croatian, I really didn't learn anything, and I wanted to feel more comfortable. So, ChatGPT gave me a method, and I decided I was going to try it out this month, see how it goes with Indonesian. If I like this method, if I should go back to just going straight through textbook, we'll have to see. So basically, this week is week 1. So session 1 was focusing on pronunciation and some basic greetings. So I did that on Sunday because I had Sunday off, which never happens. And I did it Sunday evening. So I kind of got a little extra ahead. But yeah. And then Monday I did session 2, which was to introduce myself. And so basic introductory conversation of, hello, my name is Amanda or Mandy. What's your name? I am, actually, sorry. I'm just going through here. Yeah, so what is your name? My name is Mandy. How old are you? I'm blank years old. Where do you come from? I come from Canada. Where do you live? I live in blank. What do you study? I study Portuguese, German, and Indonesian at the moment for this month. And then I also kind of did it for like the different ways I could do that. And then like, what do you do for work? So basically, that's kind of going through some of those phrases. So for example, with my very limited, 2 less sessions in of Indonesian, what is your name? Siapa namanya? My name is Mandy. Nama saya Mandy. Where do you come from, Mandy? So Mandy berasal dari mana? I come from Canada. Saya berasal dari Canada. And then, what do you study, Mandy? Mandy belajar apa? So I currently study Portuguese, German, and Indonesian. Saat ini saya belajar bahasa Portugis, Jerman, dan Indonesia. And then, what do you do for work? Apa pekerjaanmu? So I work as a waitress at 2 restaurants and I teach English. Saya bekerja sebagai, sorry, again, I've only like read through this once. So saya bekerja sebagai pelayan di 2 restoran dan saya mengajar bahasa Inggris. Bahasa Inggris. Something like that. So yeah, just some very basic kind of stuff. And then start going over numbers. So next one is going to be to learn some more just basic conversational phrases and go through the days of the weeks and the month. And then week 2, the first session is going to be to learn present tense and basic verbs. The second session is going to be learn past tense and some more verbs. And then the third session is going to be learn future tense and practice kind of all the different verb tenses. Week 3 is going to be a focus on reading and writing practice. So the first session is going to be basic reading comprehension. Now that I've started getting familiar with the words and very basic, just start kind of get more comfortable with reading something, like a very, very basic story. The second session is going to be simple writing exercises. In this case, writing out stuff with the little bit of knowledge that I have, and just writing, an introduction or a very basic conversation or something. And then the third session is to continue working on those a little bit. And then the last one is going to be combining all these kind of skills. So the first session is going to be to practice conversational scenarios, greetings, intros. I don't know what I wrote, but something. And then the second session is going to be to just review and practice the verbs and tenses. And then the third session of that fourth week is going to be a quick review of everything so far and spend some time to practice whatever I had that I need to go through. So I'm going to try this out. I want to see how that works. I think this is going to be a good way to just kind of get an idea of the basics. That's really what I'm looking for, is how do I feel about speaking language? What am I finding with writing and reading and listening? How am I understanding grammar? The one thing I do find is I didn't give myself enough grammar practice, but now I'm going to be spending an hour at a time and not a half hour. I will give myself a little bit of time to go through grammar and just kind of figure out basic sentence structure and whatever, which I didn't really plan in. So that's something I need to work on. But yeah, that's kind of this. And so this format is basically what I'm going to be doing for each of the languages. So here, basically the only things that have changed between this slide and the next slide, Hungarian, is I changed the name and I changed the flag, and hello, come on. And I changed the month of the project. But all those things are going to be that kind of situation of just learning a couple of verbs, get some basic vocabulary, get some very, very basic conversation, learn any difference in pronunciations, go through the reading or writing system if it's different. Sorry, it's 2:00 now. If it's a different writing system, that just watch a film, watch a movie, or watch an episode of something a couple times over to get a little bit familiar. But yeah, nothing too crazy. Again, it's my dabble language. I just want to have fun. I just want to enjoy it. And yeah. And then, so Hungarian will be for November. And then Turkish, darn it. Yes, I do see that I wrote a K instead of an H. But I changed it here. I just mind blurped. And you know what? I made a new slide and I put a new one there and I completely still uploaded the wrong one. So good job, Mandy. But yeah, so for dabble languages for this this quarter is going to be right now Indonesian, and then November is going to be Hungarian, and December is going to be Turkish. And I'm actually really excited. I don't know anyone that's Indonesian, but I do know a lady that works at a clothes store here in my city, who's from Hungary. So I'm going to have to try to run into her and practice a couple things, maybe at the end, see what I can say at the end of that month or halfway through. And then my favorite coffee shop, if you have me or if you follow me on Twitter, most of my pictures have been from this coffee shop. But the owners are Turkish. So that's kind of cool. I might get a chance to practice them. I'm also excited because the main barista, the male version of barista, is it still barista? I don't know now. The main guy that usually is there when I go to the cafe, I'm pretty sure he was Russian. I'm always a little scared to speak in Russian if I'm not sure and they end up being Ukrainian. I just don't want to offend anyone by accident. But I'm pretty sure yeah, he had come into my restaurant once, and I heard them speaking. I asked what language they were speaking, and they said Russian. So, yeah. So I will have to, once I start practicing that, I'll just have to be like, that's my Jen. And I don't know. That's the Das Vidanya and Spasibo and all the random little Russian things that I'm gonna Kakoste? I don't know. I'm getting a little bit of Russian Croatian mixed up right now too. So, anyways, all that to say, that's pretty much it. That's my language learning plan. Look at me. We spent an hour. Any of you that are still watching this, kudos to you because that was a lot. I'm a crazy person. I fully accept that. But yeah, that's it. That's my hour update. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, all of you. There is just a lot to talk about. Okay, there's a million languages going on. Um, next year, next year is going to be a little bit different. This year, I want to take some time to dabble. Next year, I really want to focus on a couple languages. I really want to nail down Portuguese. I really want to work more on German, and I really want to work more on Russian for sure. I would love to get back into Icelandic at some point. That's from last quarter, out of Norwegian, Croatian, and Icelandic. Icelandic was definitely my favorite of the three languages. That's one I would like to spend some more time in, and I was like sad that I was finished the month. So I would like to do some more Icelandic. Maybe I might watch a series in Icelandic or something to keep me going. And then, but I'm also very excited for an Indonesian so far. It's interesting. I don't know, and I wanted to try it because I've heard it's such an easy language to learn for native English speakers. And so far, 2 days in, I'm not like not super in love with it, but I also know I've barely scratched the surface, so I'll have to get more into it. I am very excited to practice Hungarian and Turkish. It's going to be interesting because Russian is definitely the hardest out of French, German, and Russian for me. And the 2 months that I have Russian are the 2 months I am going to be arguably learning the hardest languages I have on the list, which is Hungarian and then Turkish. So that's going to be an interesting moment in my life. November and December, good luck to me. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'm excited. It's going to be some interesting times in the next little bit. And yeah, but yeah, next year, I do want to work on my French. I do and I don't. Living in Canada, there's definitely a lot of advantages. I would also, I have been, I currently live in the Atlantic Canada, so that's kind of the far eastern side. Sorry, I had to think about that. The eastern side of Canada towards like the side of the continent that's closer to like New York and Boston. So that whole side of the country, but Canada. And it's getting more and more expensive in my city. So I have been thinking more and more about the possibility of moving to, let's say, Montreal, even if I did it for a couple months. I do have family, all of my relatives, my family's originally from Quebec. I do have a lot of family within about an hour of Montreal. So, and it would be great opportunity for me where I do have like an early intermediate level of French, at least for speaking and listening. It would be a great opportunity for me to get better in my French. But there is apparently a new law that got passed in Quebec that like the language of business is French. And it's very interesting. I was reading an article on this. I'm sorry. You can all leave now. I'm done the main part of the language thing. If you want to listen and hear about this, that's cool, but don't feel like you have to stick around for this. But there's new law, I guess apparently that got passed. And I heard about it, but I didn't think it was actually going to pass. But apparently it did pass, where it's like basically like companies have to be operating in French. So even if they're an English company that has an outpost in Quebec, they have to like have French people doing that, and their conversations have to be in French. Even if they can speak English, they have to both speak in French. It's really weird. It sounded a little far-fetched, but I know my mom has mentioned this to me, and again, her having a lot more connections in Quebec, more direct connections. So apparently, like if I were to move to Quebec, I would have to work basically in French, and I'm definitely not at that level of French. So I should probably practice my French more, to get more comfortable, at least for like, because like I could work at a restaurant, same kind of thing I'm doing now. I just have to learn the conversations, which I do have some general conversations for that, but just like better usage and my verbs, because my verbs are horrendous in French. They're starting to get better, but we need to speak. So I can at least learn some basic French conversational skills. Then I could potentially move to Montreal, pay much cheaper rent apparently than I'm paying right now. So yeah, that would be great. But yeah, that's an idea. I would like to do that. I'd also, of course, love to live in Brazil. It's going to be a hot minute or two before that happens. But yeah, that's kind of looking towards next year. I would like to spend some time in Quebec. I would like to continue working on my French, my German, my Russian, and Portuguese. And yeah, keep exploring a couple more languages. So that's kind of where it's at. And that's pretty much it. I am going to save this on, so anyone who's just popping in now, or didn't really get a chance to see much, you can go and watch this whole, you can skip past most of this. Honestly, you can like just kind of put this on 5 times speed. I don't know, I might speak too fast to be able to do that, but on and kind of get the gist. If you follow me on Twitter, will be posting a lot of like basically the short version of this as well, just some pictures and kind of post on what I'm going to be doing, the goals. I did already post my third quarter review stuff on, so I'm going to do my fourth quarter prep on that in the next dayish. Post that on there. And then yeah, these will be saved on both YouTube and Twitter. So that way you can watch it through, skip past whatever you want to, take chunks at a time. If you're doing chores, you can just let it play in the background. That's what I do. But yeah. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry for this being the most like ADHD, brain spazzing, mind warping, I don't know, messed up video that happened. I appreciate y'all. Let me know what you guys are learning. Let me know if you have any methods. I'm gonna do a post about the kind of language learning schedule that ChatGPT gave me. Sorry, I keep finding buttons and I keep getting so confused. Again, it's 2:30 in the morning here, so it's a little early right now. A little late, early, somewhere in between there. But yeah, I'm gonna share that in, and I'm gonna update everybody once I've spent a little bit more time using this kind of scheduling that ChatGPT gave me and seeing what my thoughts are on it, if I'm finding it more productive and whatnot, as well as the Dabble language plan that ChatGPT gave me, and see how that works once I get through this month. So anyways, again, thank you for watching. I hope you guys have a great day. Congrats on whatever you got done last quarter, because hey, we all need to give ourselves a pat on the back when we actually get stuff done. Most of us are busy enough with work and school, and language learning is not our first priority. So whatever you did to get better in that language, you should be proud of that, and you should, just be proud that you've improved. And that's the biggest thing at the end of the day. Have fun and keep learning. So yeah, all the best wishes for you guys for next quarter, and we'll see y'all later. All right. Bye.